Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate your time, appreciate you being here. I'm Scott with the Building Division. We have Erica with the Building Division and Ken with MGO. Some of you might have met Ken with multiple contractor classes we've had before, or even seen him in our office. So like I was saying a little earlier while we were just chatting, we're 10 weeks into our go live. We've come a long way, we've learned a lot. Today what we want to do is we want to go over some enhancements that we've made, some updates. We definitely want to have a lot of question and answers, some time for that, and then even some basics. So it'll be new stuff that we're covering and some of the old stuff. But when I say we've been learning and we've been trying to change our ways and develop it so it's more customer service oriented and works for everybody. Few things we learned. We made some management executive decisions that at first seemed like, hey, these are the procedures that are going to work best. And we've adjusted to that. So we knew we had to make some changes. And a couple of those things are, we thought at the very beginning and during development that it would be best if the building division was the central hub for everything. So what that means is we were thinking that everything should go through the building division, and then we would then route everything to other different departments. What we found was the workload and the tremendous amount of documents that come through other departments was overwhelming for one department to receive it, handle it, then send it to another department, and then it also didn't make good practice sense. It wasn't a good business practice. So we're going to go through some of those things. So a couple examples. One would be the engineering department. They handle some documents that no other department needs to touch or handle. That would be some of their comment responses during plan review. That would be an elevation certificate, initial and final. That would be as-built surveys at the end of the project, and also NOIs that they're now requiring. So now we have a system that instead of us being the middleman, you submit it to the system and it goes directly to them. So that department's not indicating and getting calls and emails saying, hey, I submitted it 3 days ago. Did you get it? Have you reviewed it? Well, no, it's still in the building department. So why does the building department even have to hold it? So that stuff will go directly to that department. That makes a lot more sense. The other issue is uploading paper applications to our system. So that was one of the business decisions, management decisions that we made, that we thought in the future we would address that. So our idea of the transfer was, let's transfer from 3 systems to 1 system, knowing it's a tremendous transfer and transition, that why change a bunch of policies also, plus the transition. So we knew that later on we're going to determine that some applications we don't need a full application uploaded. Some we just need the signature page and the notary. Some applications, we need all the information because it has so much pertinent information that you guys are filling out. So we thought that was going to be a few months after we smoothed out the transition. We're finding out that that probably has to be done a little sooner because we just assumed our old system with the email system was fill out the application and then upload it as a document to the email and attach it, and then we would get it. That everybody would assume that we didn't change that policy, that through MGO, you still fill out the paper and upload it in MGO. Some people were saying, hey, you guys went electronic. I'm filling out the questionnaire. I'm doing next. I'm doing submit. I'm doing my payments. Why do I need a paper application? So it wasn't as obvious as we thought. Some people caught on, and some people were confused. So we're going to be working on that. So those are a couple of management decisions that we thought, hey, these were good decisions, but we're having to adjust. The other issue is 10 weeks into it, it's not just the building division. It's not it's a team. We've come a long way in 10 weeks because of you guys, all the contractors, bringing us issues, questions, comments, and then our staff and MGO working together to make some of these enhancements and changes. So with our staff particularly, imagine being under that fire of go live. The load is tremendous. We conducted what we thought was a lot of training, but it's by a fire hose. And how much do you absorb? And then suddenly July 10th comes, we go live, and we held off the week before we took permits in, but we couldn't process them. So that Monday on the 10th, we have all those to process. We have everybody that was excited to go live because we've been telling people going live for 2 or 3 years. They all came in on that same day. And then we had a little bit of a glitch that a lot of contractors with the migrated permits couldn't call in inspections. So the pitchforks were there, right? What's going on? Can't work, can't do, you're holding up my project. So we've recovered over a lot of that. So our staff has done a tremendous job just trying to learn all that while you guys are learning. So that's another reason why we want this outreach, and we want to have Ken directly from MGO answering the questions, going through some stuff. So let me turn that over to him. And again, we appreciate you guys being here and everybody who's online.
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for being here. Just as Scott said, you know, today we really wanted this to be a meaningful opportunity to have you have the chance to ask any follow-up questions now that you've used the system for, you know, a bit of time. You've had a chance to get to know some of the software, utilize it quite a bit, and now, you know, perhaps from your experience, there are more follow-up questions that you can bring to our attention and things that we could address. In addition to that, we want to show you some new and innovative features and functionality that we've added based on your feedback. So we felt, hey, let's go ahead and hold another outreach and introduce all of that information and just talk about, you know, where we are now that we're 10 weeks into going live with the software. It has been profound how much progress we've made over that amount of time. There's a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes that you guys definitely don't see, but, you know, tremendous amounts of collaboration with other departments, lots of meetings, and that's what it takes to really be able to massage out a lot of the, you know, the components of the software where we have learned that, hey, this is an opportunity, we can make this more efficient, right? And from there, that's exactly what we've done. But it just simply takes time to do that. I would encourage you to certainly, you know, let staff know how much, you know, you appreciate their efforts because it was, you know, it's been a tremendous effort, and staff has really adjusted to it. Even in the rough moments, you know what I mean, they've handled it extremely well. And, you know, I just would, you know, ask that you know, give them a word of encouragement whenever you see them. Some of them are with us, but many aren't, inspectors in the field, things of that nature. And we're going to continue to make more meaningful progress. I know we're saying, you know, we're in week 10, which is true, but that's still very much in the infancy, you know, timeline of a software launch. So over the next month, we're going to make even more progress. And you know, basically what we're seeing today is evidence of what we've already known, which is that contractors are now having much more success. You know, there's no issues. You know, we don't have, you know, lots of people in the lobbies anymore. And that's just because of the great feedback we've received and how everybody has learned and made the adjustments. And again, just become accustomed to using the new software and kind of the nuances of the new product. So today, we're going to go ahead and start walking through some of these unique elements, and then we'll even touch on some of the basics once again, just to kind of reinforce some of those details. First thing that I would want to go ahead and mention is we have improved the inspector schedules report. We've improved it. And even still, I'm not saying that we're not going to even go further with that, okay? But it's come, you know, a long way from where we started in 10 weeks, of course. So, but I still want to show it and make sure that we know exactly where to go and access that. So when you've logged into the My Government Online, which actually this is the MGO Connect.org new customer portal. I should mention that the old portal, mygovernmentonline.org, you know, while that portal is still out there, it still functions, you know, for Indian River County, you need to use the newer, more advanced portal, which is the one that we're going to be walking through with today. You know, City of Sebastian went live some years ago with the older portal, and you could still use it, but we really want to encourage you, even with City of Sebastian, that if you transition and change the jurisdiction to City of Sebastian, you could actually conduct that same business through the new portal. The older one is going to be phased out eventually, not anytime soon, but you know, eventually it's going to go away. And then simply you would just go ahead and transition to Sebastian, and then you would see their landing page. And now you can do some of the similar things. And believe it or not, the City of Sebastian, even right now, they're in the process of releasing more online applications. They wanted Indian River County to kind of launch first, and then from there, start to mimic a lot of what the county did, so that now when you go to apply online with the City of Sebastian, you're going to see very similar information in the online applications, so that it's not, you know, entirely foreign. But right now, they only offer the air conditioner replacement application online, but eventually it'll be for new single-family additions, aluminum permits, and all the other types of permits that you would expect to have there. So I did want to make mention of that because, again, I know, you know, there are contractors that are familiar with the old portal. Just keep in mind the new portal doesn't require a different login. It's all the same login. Just use your same email address and password, and you're in there. Very good. Awesome. Excellent. So now, inspector schedules. When you go to Indian River County, on the left-hand navigation menu, there's an option called Inspector Schedules here. And when you make that selection, all you need to click is View PDF. And for that particular day's inspections, you will see each inspector that has what we call work orders or inspections assigned to them to be performed. And as you go through there, of course, naturally you'll see, you know, we're kind of getting to the end of the day now, so we are seeing some completed work orders. Most of them are completed at this point. There's a few of them out there still not complete just yet. But if your user account requested the inspection, you actually will see the result of that inspection as shown here. But any others that are on the list, you won't see those results. It'll just show as being completed because you know, it's not one that you particularly requested. So in this case, you can see it's in bold. We're actually even going to change the color, so it jumps out at you a little bit more that, hey, these are ones that you scheduled, you know, among this entire list, so that will be a little bit more recognizable. I don't know what color, we haven't decided on that yet, but it'll jump out better than just being bold like that. But we definitely, that was, you know, some of the enhancements we put in place. And the other, you know, probably more important enhancement is that the order is now in the correct order with the inspector as you know, the work they're doing as they go about their day. So as you can see, even in that list, the two at the bottom are the two that remain to be completed for the day. So he's making his way down the list, right? And he's making his way to get those done, even though all of those above it have been completed. So thankfully, these are the things we've worked out. Now, earlier in our morning class, someone mentioned a very good idea and concept, which is, hey, you know, sometimes this report, it could be like, you know, I don't know, she said 20 pages long and things like that, and it's kind of hard to scroll through and see what I'm trying to get to or looking for that I requested. And she made the comment that you can actually, it's a searchable PDF. So if you're on a regular PC, you can press Control F, and that will then bring up a search bar. And then now, if you're looking for a specific address and you want to kind of jump straight to that address, you can use this as kind of like a searchable format, and it will then take you straight to that particular address in the PDF so that you can see where those are at for scheduled for that day without having to just completely scroll through all the various different pages that might be there. So that's just a cool little helpful tool tip. Control F on your keyboard will bring up the little search option, and then you can find, by address just by starting to type in the address, and it'll let you find all of those very easily and quickly. You also can save this if you wanted to. There is an option to then save. May have to, kind of move that out the way. There we go. So see, you could download and you could save this to your local computer or to your phone or something like that, or even print this list out if you needed to do so. So those are some other helpful advantages that you might take advantage of. So that was the first thing. We just wanted to touch on that very quickly and let you guys know that that's something that now should be very helpful to you. Yes, sir.
So Ken, just like we explained this morning, in what I just explained a little while ago, is we didn't want to change all our policies and procedures. So remember that our staff comes in extremely early to do the routing and to set up all the inspector schedules. And that typically is done, before 7:30. But it would be highly recommended to wait till about 8, because when our staff in the office is done, by 7:30, then it's in the inspector's hands and they tweak it a little bit. So if you print this out or look at it, view it at 7:45, possibly at 8 it might change. In our old system, this was sort of live. So as the inspectors were changing, you could see it. But if we use this as a PDF, that's at a particular time. It's no longer live until you refresh and run it again. So what you might want to do is at 8, take a look at it, and then maybe a few hours later, a couple hours later, you might want to look at it, because I know you're familiar with, yourself possibly canceling some inspections in the morning. Maybe your superintendent calls you, you're not really ready, let's cancel it, or so forth. So the inspector's schedule could change a little bit. You looked at it at 8, you're saying, all right, I'm 7 on the list, so I think, hey, I'm around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or whatever. But then he has some cancellations, and suddenly he's showing up at 9:30. You're not there, So it'd be best if you looked at it once, and then at some other point in time, you probably want to, refresh it or so forth. So just a point that it's not going to be changing through the day, even though the inspector might be changing. So an example would be, we've had an inspector say, hey, I tried to work as long as possible, but I am really sick. I need to go. We take all his remaining inspections and give it to another inspector. So you're waiting for one inspector to show up, and you think he's going to be here in a couple hours, but now we actually gave it to another inspector, increased his workload, and now you're really not till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So now you're waiting around all day, and why didn't our inspectors follow the list? You looked at the list. Well, that could be one reason why, is because it's no longer an active list. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Very good. Great feedback. Good tool tips there about the morning schedule. Absolutely 100%. The inspectors, sometimes have to make adjustments to that. So, definitely worthwhile to consider, just confirming after 8 a.m. rather, where things really stand at. Okay. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about today is we wanted to make sure that we spend a little bit of time talking about making sure that it's understood when it's time to make your payment online, how to make sure that you make it to the appropriate spot. So first thing is we're assuming that you're the individual that submitted the application. And as many of you may know, when you submit the application, it automatically, when the project gets accepted or the app gets accepted, it shows up in your projects list automatically, okay? When that happens, at some point following that, you will receive an invoice, whether the staff will require a payment upfront before plan review, or all fees paid after plan review, or a combination of both. Sometimes they'll even have you, have to make depending on the type of project, you have to pay the application fee before plan review, and then you'll have all the remaining impact fees and the bigger fees to be paid after permit issuance. Nevertheless, let's just go ahead and make sure you guys know exactly where you would go to make that happen. So when you receive the invoice, it actually tells you the steps to follow to get there, and it starts with going to the projects list, which is where all of your projects would be listed, and the one we're using as an example under my account is on page 2 here. It's pending under review at this time. And then it tells you to click open, and then it tells you to go under I want to and click pay fees and print receipts. And this is now where it's showing you the balance due, and at the bottom is now where you would select those fees and then select the pay online button. Very simple, very straightforward and easy, but the reason why we're showing this is if you don't really follow the steps in that invoice that you receive like that, technically there's an alternative way to get here, and sometimes some people forget to click this one little extra step when they go this alternative way, and that is by going to the fees tab at the top, which technically is another way to get there, but that fees option is going to be selected by default to the left there, right here. And then they're here, and they're saying, well, I'm on the fees tab, but I can't pay online, right? I don't have an option to pay online. Well, that's because you have to make that extra click onto the payments button there, and now you're where you need to be to complete the payment. So I just wanted to show that. If you use that link under I want to, though, it will just take you straight here to this section to complete your payment online. But again, just wanted to clarify that for everyone. The next thing we wanted to talk about, and we're going to use this project as our example as well, is the cool functionality revolving around the workflow, or what we call the task list. Yes, sir.
Can you go over the e-check?
Oh, yeah. So what Scott is mentioning is even though the payment method option shows here only shows credit card, technically there is an option to pay with a credit card or with an electronic check as well. It's just not available for selection on this window. But Erica, if you would just go ahead and select, go up to the top there and select one of those fees, or yeah, it doesn't matter, that's good enough, and click Pay Online, this is now where it's going to route you to the page where you can complete your payment online. And from here, now that you're in the payment screen, you can change to, from paying with a credit card if you desire to pay with an electronic check. So if you select electronic check there, you'll see how the fields will change, and now you can put in your bank routing number, account number, and things of that nature, and now you could pay alternatively with that option, okay? So we wanted you to see that option does exist, and the reason why it's important is because the credit card processing fees are more expensive than the electronic check fees to process a transaction. So, if you have big ticket items that might be very expensive, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 for a permit or something like that, the electronic check might be a much more worthwhile option to consider paying with rather than the credit card because that one is a percentage base. But the electronic check, I think, is, it's kind of capped, and it's really not very expensive as a processing fee. All right. So now, double click it real quick. There you go. All right. So now, so we definitely wanted to make sure that you understood and had the opportunity to see how you could pay with those alternative methods. We are going to be discovering how we might be able to allow you to see those selections and make that selection from the MGO software. But at this time, the current payment processor doesn't really offer a way for us to accomplish that. They basically have told us that, no, they just need to make that selection when they're routed to our payment page, and then they can choose the option they prefer. And we said, okay, no problem, we'll do that. We'll make sure everybody understands that. So now, let's talk about the really neat feature of the software. What we're going to start seeing more often is less of those imported permits that were imported from the previous system. Those will be processed and going through, the processing for a while, don't get me wrong. But more and more, we're going to start seeing what we call the native permits or projects that originated in the MGO system. And for all of those permits, you're going to have a very well-normalized and well-structured workflow. So all of this that we've been kind of dealing with and trying to understand and figure out over the past several weeks for imported permits, none of those really had a workflow that you could really kind of see the process of where you're at currently and, and what's even coming up in the future and things you can plan for and strategize for, right? And that's just simply because of the nature of the transition and, a lot of those projects, there was just no way where we could identify and do that in, kind of a programmatic way so that, it really required you to just have to touch every single permit manually and try to set all these workflows. But nevertheless, let's show you what we call the task list for your permits. And as we can see, the status of this permit is pending under review, which means that at this time, it's still going through the plan review process. We can't schedule inspections yet or anything like that. But I want to call your attention to the requirements button under the task list. And from here, you're going to get a lot of meaningful details and information using what we call the stages. Each stage represents the tasks that need to be completed before it will move to the next stage, okay? By default, when you navigate to this particular requirement section, the stages option that's selected is to only show the current stage, just to keep things condensed and really just honing in on exactly where you're at in the workflow at this very moment, which in this case is stage number 2, which we see that county engineering has had info or sent comments with and marked their task as info needed. Building, same thing. Utilities department is still needing to do the task, but then county planning has completed it, which signals that they've essentially approved it and everything is good there, and the impact fees have been applied to the project, so that's completed as well. Now, of course, while that's great, you may also, when you have a project that's created, you may want to start strategizing and seeing, okay, that's great, and I know I'm going to get all this sorted out and my permit's going to eventually get issued, but I want to see what that looks like. I want to see what the whole workflow looks like all the way through the very end. If you'd like to see that, the other option to expand is the one called Expand All Requirements, or basically all stages. And first thing you're going to see is stage 0, which is really what we refer to as an anytime stage. And for the most part, the items you're going to see in that stage are going to be more or less, they're going to be inspections, like aluminum infill, anchor bolts, columns, driveway, things like that. And the reason why those are there is because when the permit gets issued, we want you to have the liberty to request those when you're ready for them, right? It's not going to kind of say you got to do them in a certain stage, because these are inspections that sometimes don't really work well within particular stages, okay? So that's what the anytime stage is all about. And of course, the workflow truly starts at stage 1, which all that required in this particular workflow was the application fee being paid, which it was. We then moved on to stage 2, which is the current stage at this time. But let's look beyond that. Let's just say all of the requirements for plan review are now completed. It will move on to stage 3. And all that really is the building department does a final review and then and just a kind of a quality control check, to back up the other departments. And then stage 4 is where we have a staff member that's going to load the final fees that are required to be paid for the permit. And then it will move on to stage 5, which is where the system will then automatically send an invoice out automatically. And when you receive that invoice, the system will acknowledge that it has completed that task. And there's another task that will also be completed. Then it moves on to the next stage, which is where it's waiting to make sure that you pay the fees that are outlined in that invoice that was sent out. And of course, when you complete that payment online, the system will then complete that task. And then when that happens, the next stage, stage 7, is where the system is automatically going to issue the permit. Now let's talk about that. Sometimes what we have had in previous weeks is some contractors will complete that payment and they're expecting that screen to just blip and show permit issued immediately. But it's not that instantaneous, okay? It takes about 5 minutes or so for the system to kind of go through those little actions, even though they're automated actions. So give it time. So whenever you do pay the fee online and it's about to issue that permit, it could take 5 to 10 minutes for all of that to actually naturally happen, okay? So if you don't see it flip to permit issued immediately, no concern with that. That's perfectly normal and expected. But if you give it about 10 minutes and you go back and refresh the page here or just open the project again, you'll clearly see the status has changed to permit issued. And you also will receive a copy of the permit emailed to you directly as well. So that all happens automatically so that you can then print out a copy of the permit. If you need to print out any kind of plans, we're going to show you the Documents tab where you'll be able to print out those plans that need to go at the job site and things of that nature. But I just wanted to talk about how there is kind of like a delay once you pay online. Just be patient, let the system work through, and it's going to then eventually execute and send you the permit. And then beyond that, stage 8 is where the notice of commencement will need to be turned in at that point. Then once you turn that in and staff acknowledges that that has been reviewed and processed, keep in mind that also is not an automated thing. Even though you uploaded the notice of commencement, a staff member has to look at it, right? So it could take them sometimes, an hour, a couple of hours, maybe even may not happen until the next day. Just keep that in mind, but staff has gotten tremendously faster with that, so they'll be all over that and they will complete that when that happens. Then it'll move on to the next stage, density report, form board approved. Those items will be uploaded, and when you upload those, they'll review those and complete those as well. And you have a plumbing underground inspection that you'll need to have completed. Now, keep in mind, when you get into these stages where you're having, these inspections that are in these stages, like the slab pre-pour, the tie beam, roof sheathing, keep in mind you also have the anytime inspections going on up there. So you may have a driveway you need to do, or some other type of inspection that's in the anytime list. Even though they're not shown in these stages, you still need to request those inspections in the anytime priority as needed for that particular project. But nevertheless, you'll continue to advance through. Roof dry-in, we have the strapping, all in stage 13. 14 is our rough ends. Stage 15 is framing. And then on, we have our drywall. And then in 18, we have the building final. We have some other, storm shutters, utility inspections, things of that nature. All of that, once all of those pass, then you're basically about to enter into the CO checklist phase of things. So stage 19 is where the system is basically doing a kind of like a final check to make sure that all fees are paid. You don't have any lingering reinspection fees out there or anything like that. That gets automatically completed, assuming you don't have any fees hanging out there. And then, of course, the as-built survey has to be accepted and processed at that time. Now, if you had the as-built survey before you made it to 19, you could have uploaded it even before then, and staff will still complete it even though it's in a later stage than where you are currently at. But nevertheless, if you are at this stage, you can't move beyond that until you've uploaded it and they review it. And we're going to show you how to submit that type of document that that we want to go straight to engineering. And then basically once that gets cleared, you're in this CO checklist phase, stage 20, which is where thermal envelope certification, blower door cert. Again, if you've received any of these documents prior to arriving at that stage, still upload it, okay? Still provide it, and they'll still complete it even though it's in that later stage. So don't kind of wait until you get here, if you have it already, okay? And of course, the right-of-way final engineering final inspection will be there. But see, I wanted you to see this because, see, you're able to see this even before the permit gets issued. You can kind of see what's going to be going on way later, months from now. And if you see anything out of the ordinary, maybe even the moment your permit gets issued, I would highly recommend just give a quick glance of your overall workflow. And if you see, in the workflow, I see that they're requesting an elevation certificate, but we're not in a flood zone and we shouldn't require that, go ahead and take care of that now. Let the building department know that so they can get that out of there. And now when that time comes, it's not something that you're dealing with at that time because you've proactively taken care of it. And then, of course, they have these safety measure CO hodes in place. And that's just basically CO hodes that is internal so that they can check a few final things that are important to the building department. And then once they complete all of those, the system will then issue your certificate of occupancy. Now, this is a very long workflow because it's like a whole house being built, but aluminum permits, HVAC change-outs, small things like that, even like generators and storm shutters and doors and windows. The workflows are not nearly as long as this, but it is still good to look at it just to make sure that what you're expecting is there. Mobile homes is another one. Everything, is in order at the time of your permit being issued to you from the system. So we wanted to just spend a little time talking about this task list and how you can toggle that view from showing just the current stage to showing the full list of requirements, because it's so beneficial when you have that insight. And again, that's the whole intent of the software and the building department, is making sure that we have this clear communication and everybody knows exactly, because staff, that's literally all staff is doing. They're just going through on each project and just completing these items as they get turned in or as inspections are completed. So they're following the exact same workflow that you're seeing right here. So if you see something that you believe may not be appropriate, just go ahead and let the building department know that, and they'll remove that item if it needs to be removed and take care of it for you. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about how do you see, oh, okay, we have a question?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Let's let you speak into the microphone. Thank you. Appreciate it.
If we have a question about something that looks not quite as the way it should, do we do it through MGO, or do we deal with the office direct?
To the, yeah, BSS staff.
So we would call the office? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Good question. Absolutely. So yeah, because the MGO staff, we would only be able to kind of help you navigate the software, but like something particular, we wouldn't, know if it's appropriate to take it out or not or anything like that. But BSS and staff and all the building staff, they certainly would. We have a question in the back. Yes, sir. Oh. She's good. Okay, good. Awesome.
You don't have a question?
Yep, we good. Awesome. Okay. Very good. So now, let's go ahead and show you guys. So, of course, we showed you how to complete your payment online. When you complete your payment online, if it involves you now needing to access a certain drawing, that was approved and stamped, and you need to put that out at the job site, get it printed and things like that, let's just show you where you would go to do that, because we want to talk about that section and how you'll use that section a little differently from submitting other types of documents. So up at the top here, we have a Documents tab. And under the Documents tab, if you go to Jurisdiction, that's where you're going to see the documents that the staff has released to you so that you can then access those particular documents. You can download copies of those particular files. So here is the listing of all the documents that are released. And let's just say one of these was the approved set of plans. It doesn't matter which one. You could go to the right, and then you would click, and that would allow you to then download that drawing so you could have it printed and placed at the job site. So I wanted you to see where you access the approved plans, just very quickly, so that would be helpful to you. There we go. All right. So that's the section under Documents where you will see that. The Plan Review button is where you would see comment letters, the plan review letters. So if you see info needed in your workflow prior to permit issuance, you know that means that department has sent you comments which you will receive actually via email so that it's more real time, right? Instead of you just having to constantly check the portal to see if you have an update or anything like that. So the moment any department reviews and they have comments, they're going to make a letter and email it straight to you as the applicant. However, they will also reside here just as kind of like a backup, And then you could go here and click download, and that's where you would then see that particular comment letter that has been created as shown here. But again, you definitely will have received this via email for sure. But it's there just, in case the email got deleted or something like that, you could always find it here again, okay? Looks great. Good job, Graham. All right. So now from here, we also want to show you the Customer button under Documents, Customer. Now, this button is where you can upload or add new files for other purposes that you need to submit to the jurisdiction. Now, again, I'm learning too, just like you guys, may be learning. I'm probably the greenest of all. But whenever you are uploading certain documents, there are certain documents that should be uploaded through this section. Those are going to be your subcontractor affidavits, okay, form boards, basically any of those CO requirement items, termite cert, all of those types of items. Notice of commencement, absolutely. But we don't want you to upload through here responses to plan review comments. We've created a new section in the portal where it is going to be much more beneficial for you to submit your responses to comments in this next section that we're about to show you. So responses to comments, and engineering documents such as surveys, elevation certificates, and NOI documents, there's a new section now where those are going to be submitted, and that's where we're about to go next. But any other of those other documents we mentioned, notice of commencement, subcontractor affidavits, the CO checklist items like termite certs and things like that, this is where you would upload those. You would just choose add new file, upload those documents, and then staff is alerted and they will then process them. Remember, it still does take, you know, some time for them to accept it, process it, and things of that nature. Of course, we've gained a lot of momentum and we're much faster than we have been with that. But still in all, obviously it's going to take some time for them to process that, especially if you upload it at 6 a.m. when the office doesn't open until 8:30. You know, at least you know it's going to be there and they're going to get to it when they get into the office. But you can do work early in the morning like that and upload those things. So let's go ahead and, okay. Yep.
We've got some people online who are single-family home builders. I just want to clarify, when your project goes through that initial building review, in that stage where it's all comments addressed, that's where we're kind of doing that final check of everything, and that's also where we're going through this requirement set, especially when it gets down here to stage 18, 19, and 20. That's when we're kind of making some adjustments, removing some things that might not be needed, but also maybe adding some things in that would be required for a final CO. So if you can really think about, especially stage 20, as your CO checklist. You were kind of using that previously in that Clear Village portal, but this kind of takes the place of that. So definitely, when your permit is issued, you always want to kind of expand those requirements, really take a look, especially down here, so you know what to expect, what items we need for CO. And if for some reason you're getting close to CO, you notice something doesn't quite look right, you can always give us a call or email us. Most of you are very familiar with Kelly and Bree. You can always send them an email, and we can kind of look over these items, make sure they're correct, make any adjustments that we may need. But just think of this as really it's your CO checklist, and that's in that kind of order. Again, as Ken said, you know, we might be, you know, at building final, or maybe we just got through your drywall and everything, and you've got some documents you want to turn in. Go ahead and turn them in, upload them to your portal. We'll process them, even though they might be in a lower stage, not the current. We're still going to process them and get them out of the way for you. So I just want to mention that.
That is excellent. You know, I mean, you can't get any better than that. That's a far better explanation than I ever could have provided. But take you know, heed to that and really take advantage of it, because it really is going to be informative. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me also add a little more clarification on the all comments addressed. So other things that we're doing at that point in time is the building department and the plans examiners specifically are taking that opportunity to make sure that the documents that are attached to that project have been stamped properly by the other departments. So we might need an engineering stamp on their plans, a planning department stamp, and then also they're making sure that all those documents are checked off as released to the portal, so you guys have access to them. So there's plan review documents, and then there's additional documents. And some of those additional documents that have been uploaded also need to be released to the portal. So we are doing some of those final things before the permit's issued. So that's what that activity really is for, is that final building department view, and then it proceeds on.
Excellent. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Very good. So I think we spent a good amount of meaningful time talking about the task list. It is going to make all of your projects so much more efficient now that many of the newer projects that are originating in MGO will always have, you know, the appropriate workflow list. Of course, a lot of you may have or may know, you may even still come across some of those permits today, the imported ones. They would have a very gigantic list of inspections to pick from when it's time to request inspections online and things like that. And that's simply a result of not having a workflow or requirements there. So in lieu, what we had to do was simply provide to you all options to select from, so that when it's time to request the inspection, we're really just relying on you to select those that you do need appropriately. But again, that's just for this transitional moment. And then once a lot of those imported permits are phased out, again, you'll have this great structure. It's going to definitely give you the guidance you're looking for and that insight. Lots of transparency here that's going to make us all very successful. Okay, so now let's talk about submitting other types of documents. This is something new. We're really excited about it. It took a lot of meetings, collaboration with engineering department or public works, Scott, Erica, to work this out and make sure that it was going to be a system that works great for everybody. And we're so happy to say that, it's working great. It's working very well. The whole process has sped up tremendously because of this, because we have effectively made a transition to where the building department doesn't have to be a pass-through to get it to engineering, okay? Now, just like anything, you always go in with a strategy, and our initial strategy before we went live was that, hey, look, we think it would be great if all documents flow through the building department, but then we saw, when we went live, we saw the volume that they're receiving, and then we very quickly realized, whoa, okay, that might not have been the best idea, right? So it was thoughtful, it was meaningful, and it was meant to improve customer service, but the volume is what rendered that being just not feasible, okay? So we learned from that, we heard from the customers, we saw the volume, and we've made a very fast transition to put in functionality that address this much more in a very efficient way. So let's talk about that. So now on the home page, we have some new links on the left navigation panel, and one of those is responding to permit comments as well as submitting revisions. So instead of using that Documents tab of the project to add a new file and upload and submit comments to responses to plan review comments in that way, this is now the new intended link where if you've received a comment letter and you need to respond to those comments, you're going to go here, and it's going to be a much more efficient process. Your plan review comments are going to get accepted a lot faster if you go this direction. Now, when you click that link, you basically have one link to submit responses to comments that were from building division, fire prevention, and the planning department, or if you had to respond to comments from the engineering department, then you have an option separate for the engineering department. And this is what we're talking about. This new structure now is going to ensure that when you're responding to engineering and you choose that option, it no longer has to route through the building department. It's going to go straight to engineering. So from there, you'll go ahead and put in your project number. You'll search to pull up that project, and then you'll go ahead and click or make that selection there, and then click Select. And then it's a very simple little form here where it's asking, hey, who's the submitter or the person that's providing this? You really don't need much there, just first name, last name, and maybe an email address is fine. And then you'll click Next. And then it just asks, hey, who's the engineering staff person that was on your comment letter, right, that you got your comments from? And that's just helping them to know whenever these come back in, they know who to route it back to very easily and quickly. So you'll make that selection. And then finally, you'll just upload your response to their comments, whatever that needs to be. It could be a PDF, it could be a Word document, whatever fulfills that the necessity there. And then finally, you'll click Next, and then you'll submit it. and then engineering will receive it directly. It doesn't go through the building department anymore, and this has now massively improved that process to handle responses to comments to the engineering department. It's the same process for the building division one, same thing, nothing different about it. It just gets routed to the building division in that case there. Now, we wanted to talk about also separately, not responses to comments, but when it's time for you to submit your as-built surveys, your notice of NOI, NOI documents, as well as your elevation certificates, you now have 3 distinct options here to submit those documents. And again, extremely simple. Let's just say it's the elevation certificate we need to submit. You just make that selection, put in the permit number it's for, search, it'll find it, click, submit, or select rather, put in your submitter name, click next. And then this one, all it is asking that you just simply affirm that the only document that you will be uploading is that document, in this case, the elevation certificate, because we don't want you to upload multiple documents like an as-built survey here as well, because now that messes up the process because it's different staff that review these different documents over in the engineering department. So that's the reason why we're being a little bit more emphatic about this, is please only upload an elevation certificate with this. And of course, if you were doing this with the NOI documents, it would just simply make that statement there with that. And then finally, of course, you would click next and you would upload that document. So it really has simplified this entire process. And not only has it simplified the process, it has made it more efficient because of the way it's routing now and going straight to dedicated specific staff members. And then finally, submit plan revisions on an issued permit, keyword being an issued permit. So that is the difference between what we typically refer to as plan review comments, which is prior to permit issuance, and a revision, which is typically after the permit gets issued, and now you need to make a change in what was previously approved in the stamp plans and things like that. Now we have an option specifically for that as well. And this one is intended to go always to the building department, so it's just one option. And then the building department will make sure that it is routed to the appropriate departments that would need to make sure that they see those revisions. So that was another very critical aspect of all of the newer system configuration options that we wanted to go ahead and display and show there for you. And of course, we also put a link that literally says submit elevation certificates, as-built surveys, and NOI documents. But when you click that, it still takes you to that same location here. But again, it was just, something that's more visible so that you know exactly, where to click when you need to go and submit those particular types of documents as well. Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to the home page here, and we're going to be adding some new options over here on the left side. Scott and I talked about that earlier. One of them is going to be just a little bit more of a kind of like a frequently asked questions guide. We're going to be adding that here, so when you click that, it'll take you to a document that is going to cover a number of subjects. And we're going to continue to keep it updated and maintained over time, add subjects to it. So over time, it's like a living and growing document that says, hey, if you need to respond to comments, this is where you go to see if your application was returned. This is where you go to see those comments and how you then submit it back and things like that, which is the next subject we're going to go ahead and address real quick as well. All right. But yeah, that frequently asked questions and kind of like a little guide, we'll be working on that. And when you see over here on the left side, you'll see it there once it is available for sure. And also, I wanted to make mention while I'm looking at it, the contractor search is going to be enhanced as well. So you'll be able to search by trade or even by business name or license number. That is coming. Right now, it's just like a massive list, and it probably isn't very useful in a lot of cases, but we'll be making those enhancements, and then that way you could drill down straight to straight electricians or mechanical contractors that hold licenses in Indian River County and things like that. Now, another subject we wanted to talk about, and this is all coming out of feedback that we've received. So we had some, not many, but a few customers that mentioned, hey, when I submit an application, and then that application is then returned back to me, how do I see the comments telling me why it was returned rather than it being accepted so that I can address those comments? So we wanted to go ahead and show you that today. So in your projects list, if you ever see a return for your review application, first thing you're going to receive is an email letting you know that the application has been returned back to you. Although the email is not going to indicate why it was returned, it just tells you that, hey, heads up, this has been returned. Go to the portal so you can see why it was returned, so you can respond to it. You need to go anyway so you can respond to it. So from that perspective, you would go ahead and adjust it. So you'll go ahead and click Open, and then there's a Comments tab to the very far right. That tab is where the comments will be displayed. So in this case, they're asking you to please submit a completed aluminum permit application with the qualifier signature and notary block completed. So that basically is the reason why it was returned, and now you know what you need to take care of, and Scott addressed that before we start, basically in the very beginning of the class today, that we still require that application to be filled out, completed, and notarized, right? And then you upload it with your application at that time. But if it was returned like this, and you say, oh, okay, let me go get one of those applications and fill it out and get it notarized, and now you're ready to upload it, right there next to the Comments tab is the File Upload tab. And then now you could just go ahead and drag and drop the file, there, or click to browse and locate the file on your computer and upload it. And then finally, you'll go to the Overview tab, which is where you need to go to submit the application back to the jurisdiction. And this is one of those elements that we felt would be nice to go ahead and include in that frequently asked questions document, which is to kind of communicate that, because the submit button isn't available under any of the other tabs. It's only available under the Overview tab. So some customers were a little confused by that, like, okay, I've uploaded my file, how do I submit this, right? And they didn't realize you had to go back to the Overview tab, which I fully, grasp, and I understand that as well. But again, that's how you would handle that. And we probably will make an adjustment to where the submit button will be available under any of those tabs. But again, I have to get with our development team to discuss that and the particulars of it, okay? All right. So now, going back to the projects list, we wanted to make sure that we also talked about when you're requesting inspections. Just quickly, let's just go ahead and show that. So we're going to go to a permit that has been issued. To request an inspection, as long as the permit is issued as shown here, you can then go to the Task tab and then select New Request. And then this is where you would be allowed to select an inspection so that you can request a particular inspection that you need to request, such as like the columns inspection here or the driveway inspection. So you would just make that selection, and then again, you would go ahead and select the address and then the date of the inspection, which has to be the next business day available. You can put notes in there and then add selected type, and then you would submit it. We're not going to submit this one, but just wanted to go ahead and make sure we show that. Now, one thing about that section that we are definitely going to enhance is right now, there isn't anything that clearly indicates to you if, if you try to go and request an inspection, and let's just say the subcontractor affidavit hasn't been put in yet for that particular trade, all it does right now is just not display, those inspections available to you for selection. So we want to do that better. We want to go ahead and maybe like show those inspections, let's just say electrical, for example, but to the right indicate that, an approved sub has not been entered or is inactive, at this time, something like that. Additionally, if we go up to the contacts, so what we need to do is at the bottom down there, I think it is. Okay, there we go. So if we go to contacts, right here as well, for the subs that are listed, right here it doesn't really indicate to you if they're active or inactive at this time. We're going to be enhancing this, okay? So you'll be able to see, hey, why can't I select a concrete inspection? Well, if you go to the contacts, perhaps then you would see that, oh, my concrete guy is inactive right now, okay? So that's going to be very helpful to give you that clear indication there. And then obviously right now, drywall, insulation, masonry, and roof, assuming that project would require those types of subs, if they did, then you know that those subs have not been entered at this time yet. So if you just turned in the affidavit, and the staff may have just not gotten to it yet, or perhaps it maybe just hasn't been turned in, okay? So again, we are going to have the status of the licensed contractors showing here with their Indian River County license status. And also, if you click on any of those contractor labels, like if you click on carpentry as an example, it will also pull up and open and show more details about that contractor, and we're going to also have more details showing there as well. All right. So we have some questions in the chat, so we're letting
Where am I
Erica
going
respond
next?
to those. No, I was just asking you to click on the carpentry contractor,
okay.
for example. See, this does open when you do that, and we're going to have this also show more of their status information and things of that nature, so that'll be more helpful to you as well. Just wanted you to see that that does pop up and provide some additional details there. Okay. All right. Let's talk about applying online for permits. I know there may be some people here that may not be familiar with that, so we're going to go ahead and walk through a little bit of that and make sure that everyone's clear on that particular subject. We're just going to breeze through it, and then we're going to take some questions, okay? So basically, applying online for a permit, as it is right now, there are 4 application types that are what we call limited scope, and it's kind of like these permits that get automatically issued as long as your contractor license is active and you're required to make those payments, before you submit the application. I wanted to talk about those briefly for a second. I know you are accustomed to those being permits that basically in the older system immediately got issued, right away without staff involvement. We're getting back to that. We're getting very close to where we're going to have that. But with the new system, there's some very special criteria that we need to collaborate on with the GIS department for address verification. And we want to make sure we have no issues with that when we do roll it out and release it. So in the meantime, if you are a contractor that applies for those limited scope type applications, like a HVAC change out or maybe a water heater change out, very simple permits like that, keep in mind that if you submit that at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, it's not going to be issued to you until staff comes in and they process it, and then it will be issued in most cases the same day. So it is those, they are applications rather that we're giving a lot of attention to, and we're understanding that these are applications that we want to just get out the door, right? Because you've already paid, You've already taken care of all of the filling out of the application, uploading documents, things like that. So it's just a matter of staff, really for the most part, kind of confirming the license again. They do a couple of other things, and then they issue the permit, without you really having to get back involved. So I wanted to mention that. That is going to be a coming enhancement to where it's going to be a little bit more fully automated eventually. Now, applying online for other permit types, one thing that we wanted to call attention to that we hope that many contractors and applicants will begin to do more often, let's do the aluminum application. Let's do that one. When you apply for the application, when you get to the contact section, which is the next section here, go up a little bit, Erica. So right there, you'll see those contacts at the top of the page: contractor, surveyor, applicant, property owner. In this case, sometimes it's even more than that. But the one that we definitely want to call attention to is now the first slot, because it's just that important, is the contractor. We want you to absolutely load the contractor that is the licensed contractor that will be doing the work. And the best way to do that is to use that button that says Search the Jurisdiction's Contacts Database, and then begin typing the business name of that particular business. And then from there, you would be able to select that particular contractor. Can we just think of a quick business real quick? Anybody in particular?
Just gonna tape roof.
Coastal. There we go. Let's do coastal.
Just hang on, I gotta go back.
No. You're right there. Search. Do the search again. Coastal. All right. Now scroll down. There we go. So now there's our list that is matching the keyword coastal there as the business name. And then from here, what you would do is when you find the appropriate business and licensed personnel, over to the right is the select button. Now, I have reported this to our staff so that select button is going to be on the left so that you don't have to try to scroll over like that. Because right now, it really, you wouldn't even know how to select the contractor unless you know to scroll that ribbon so that you could get to the right so you can make that selection. So again, and even in this case, you'd have to scroll all the way down to the very bottom, and then move the ribbon over, and there's your select buttons on the listed over there. But then you would just make that selection, and then it's going to populate that licensed contractor information in that contact section. But again, this is something that we're going to work out. I'm going to go ahead and push on our staff to try to get this done, with expeditiously, because again, I think this is the reason why we don't have a lot of contractors that are applying online, complying with putting that in there. So that means staff has to then ultimately search the contractor and put it in as with the appropriate license. Also, while we're here, another aspect that is kind of cool looking, but it doesn't really jump out at you, right? There's nothing that gives you information of why that little bell icon right there, the purpose behind it. But it's very important, and I wanted to go ahead and make sure we call attention to that as well. Whenever you're filling out your contacts, definitely, particularly the contractor, that bell, what that's for is if you desire and would like to receive automatic notifications when the inspections begin on this particular permit. So going forward, when that permit finally gets issued, you've already established and said, yeah, when this permit gets issued and we start doing inspections on this project, I want that email address to be receiving email notifications every time we get one approved or failed or whatever it might be. That's what that bell is all about right there. And that's the only purpose it's for, but it's a very important purpose if you want to make sure that on this particular permit, you would be getting those automated notifications coming to you. Now, I want to caution you against making that selection on the phone numbers though, okay? Because especially if you are a contractor that has lots of permits and lots of activity going on, that bell icon next to the phone numbers, whenever the inspections are performed, what it does is it calls that number, okay? So let's just say you're a contractor, you're a home builder, and you have, 20 homes in progress right now, and each day you're having probably, anywhere around 20 to 30 inspections, in total going on. Well, throughout the day, that phone's gonna be ringing and ringing and ringing. So you might want to avoid that, but the email is the one that everyone tends to definitely love and appreciate. So definitely make sure you're paying close attention to that bell icon and you're making that selection for the parties that you would want to get notified when the inspections are performed and completed, okay? That's what that's all about right there. All right? I know on the BR comms, you even have a separate contact type up there called superintendent, right? Because, you may want the superintendent to also get the notifications as well. That's kind of overseeing the project. And then finally, of course, once you populate that information, you click next, and then you would just fill out the questionnaire. We don't, have to go through all of this because I'm sure most of you are very familiar with applying online for these permits already. But you would definitely fill out that. And then the final step, which is the next step, we don't really need to go there, is where you would then upload your documents so that you can then submit the application so that staff can then review it and get it into plan review and, of course, get things moving along so you can complete your payments and things like that, okay? So
I'm just going to clarify a couple things.
Sure.
One of the problems that Scott mentioned earlier is that application. So there are many application types where really as long as you submit just the second page of the application, which is really that qualifier signature and the notary block, we can at least use that because we've got basically that online application that answered a lot of our questions. But we do have certain permit types that those applications have specific pages that have to be filled out. One of those is roofing permits. If you're doing even a shingle to shingle or any other type of roof, you still have to fill out that entire application and send it in. Right now, we also have those fuel, gas, and generator permits. So the front page of both of those applications has specific questions that we need filled out. We are looking at ways to use this online system and kind of capture that data and then turn it into a document that the plans examiner can then see. But for now, you really do need to fill out those applications and turn them in. Another one, we've seen this a lot on the AC permits. Not every AC contractor out there is using those limited scope applications. We did program that application specifically to ask questions. It's asking your model information, your sizing of your units, and it is capturing that data so that the plans examiner and the inspector out in the field can see that information. However, if you're an AC contractor and you just do the various trades residential, and you just do the mechanical and you're just doing an AC changeout, you have to submit that AC application because now we have no idea what model or unit number you're installing out in the field, so our inspectors have nothing to go on. So just remember, on a lot of applications, we at a minimum need that signature page, but on many of them, we need that whole application. Mobile homes is another one. You're gonna have to turn in that whole application. It's got a lot of information.
Most definitely, 100%. But we are working towards some enhancements with that, like Erica is saying. But for right now, make sure that you just go ahead and complete that application fully and go ahead and attach it along with your online application. And that way it won't get kicked back and you're gonna have a lot of success there with that for sure. So with that being said, I wanted to go ahead and make sure that we offer everyone an opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions that, if you've had a certain experience with anything, or if you just want to have us go through another aspect of the software that you're unsure about, we have the microphone here. We want you to ask those questions, and we can address those as they come up. Yes, in the back here, Scott. While Scott's making his way back there, I also wanted to make mention that we are in the process of establishing also more features for the inspectors in the field. We're going to be meeting with them in the morning to make their routes even more efficient than it is today. So that's something that we also have been working on. So I just wanted to mention that while Scott was making his way back there as well. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry if you mentioned this earlier. I apologize. I came in late. But at what point can you add contacts to the permit?
Very good question. That's a great one right there. So at this time, the customer portal doesn't allow you to add contacts yourself to a particular permit. It's just some things with that are a little bit sensitive, as far as like subcontractors and things like that. So for right now, I believe we have a channel locally here where staff would be able to add contacts for you, because they can add as many as you need onto a permit. So for right now, you would have to go ahead and call locally here to have staff add that, or you can also call the My Government Online Help Desk, and the MGO Help Desk staff, they will add the contact for you as well. So maybe like at the time the application was filled out, maybe you had a superintendent that you really wanted to have listed and they didn't get listed. We can definitely add that for you.
Okay. And then my next question is, in your projects list, if you have applications that have been denied and you're not moving forward with that permit, or it was a duplicate or something, how do you get that off of your projects list?
Great question. We've already made a request to give you the option to delete those. Right now, it just, I don't know, I guess it was an oversight that that's something that you guys would need to be able to delete, of course. So we are going to, again, it's already in development, but eventually you're going to see a delete button on those,
Okay.
and you'll be able to get those out of there as well.
Okay.
I'll remind our staff about that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Great questions. Those are phenomenal questions. All right. We still have plenty of time to answer more questions. In the meantime, what we're going to do is talk about contractors. So for contractors, so we do have the time period coming up where I think it's October 1st, state licensed or state, certified contractors are expected to renew their license. Maybe not, I could be wrong about that. Is it state certified or just, October 1st? Okay, they expire September 31st. Okay, so prior to October 1st, if you know that your contractor details will need to be updated, like your workers' comp, general liability insurance, your state license expiration, you can go ahead and navigate to the contractors menu here. And many of you may have already associated the contractor you're associated with and associated that contractor record to your contractors list here. And if you have, you can click View Details as shown there, and then you can go ahead and add new files by uploading your updated state license, your updated workers' comp, your updated general liability insurance. I think there's a business tax. You upload those items, and then what contractor licensing is doing is on a daily basis, they're checking to make sure to see those that have been uploaded, and then they will go into your record and process those renewals and update those accordingly. We also will be adding on the home page a link to submit contractor renewals. That'll be a little bit more manageable. We'll probably get that put in place, probably next week. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't throw so much out there all at one time. Now that contractor licensing has gotten more comfortable with the system, we'll probably put just a convenient link there that says renew a contractor registration. And when you complete that application, once again, they'll go ahead and update those details and renew your license, and then email you a copy of your new updated Indian River County registration to you. So definitely use that contractor section there. Anytime, even not at the normal renewal period, but let's just say at some point, December rolls around, you have an active and up-to-date contractor license, but your general liability is about to expire. That's where you would go to upload the new copy of that general liability insurance, so that contractor licensing would receive that, and just update that one criteria to bring that up to date as well. Yes, sir.
And Ken, also, like we mentioned this morning, the contract licensing email, where they've been in past years, updating all that information is still going to be active. You can also do it in that fashion.
Outstanding. Yep. Glad you mentioned that. So again, just go ahead and submit it that way if that is a preference as well. So we're working, in those both of those channels. But again, we are going to definitely add the option to register brand new as a contractor with Indian River County, and also renew licenses as well. And that'll be on the home page as new links on that left navigation bar coming very, very soon. All right? Now, because some of the licenses, to renew them, it's not just as simple as just uploading documents. Some of them you actually have to pay, to renew the license. There's a fee associated. I think those are like, the local registered and things like that, or maybe just not certified, but registered, state registered. So we do need to add that element anyway, so that when you submit the application, they'll review it and then process it, and then you'll receive an invoice, and it'll ask you to go to that payments tab right there, and that's where you're going to then complete the payment, which this record doesn't have that. But that's where you'll go to complete your payment, to pay to renew that registration that you needed to renew when a payment is required as well. All right, so now back, if we go to the home page, we're going to talk about searching for permits. So if you are someone that is looking to add permits to your account, and it was either an imported permit that was before this system started, or it was a project that even was a new one, but it wasn't applied for online under your user account, but you need to gain access to it, especially like permit runners and things like that, you will need to, it won't just automatically just somehow show up under your projects list. You need to gain access to it by searching for that permit and then adding it to your projects list. And once it's added to your projects list, that's when it's going to be there forevermore, and you'll be in good shape. So at the top, Erica, you'll need to click the permits tab there. So so you would click the permits tab, and then you would type in that particular project number, and then at the bottom you would search for that particular project, and then it's going to look like this with these 3 buttons to the left, and it will ask you if you want to add it to your account. Now, this one's already added to my account, so I don't get that option, but you'll see that option to add it to your account, and when you select add to my account, that's now putting it on your projects list. However, the only way you're going to be able to add that to your projects list is if you are related to that project in some fashion, okay? And the way that would be is if you're listed as the applicant, the contractor, one of the subcontractors, or the superintendent. You have to be listed as a contact in some capacity. And also, some of you may remember when you created your customer portal account, you had to provide a phone number that basically kind of verified your identity, made sure you're a real person, and you had to press 1 when you created the account. Really, that's what it's really looking for, is that that phone number is in one of those contacts listed on that permit. That's really the item that it's keying in on. If you get a message saying you can't add that project to your account, then you know that you are likely not listed as a contact on that particular permit, and definitely your verified phone number isn't listed as well. So you'll need to go ahead and call the permit office and have yourself, one of the staff members list you under that particular permit, and then now you would be able to add it to your account. Now, what some corporations are doing is they will have numerous members of their organization that are involved in working on the same permits and things like that. And instead of the corporation saying, hey, we have all these permits and we want all 5 of these people that work for us to be able to access those permits with their own account, instead of staff having to add all of those people to all of those different permits, in the reverse, something that you can do is under your own customer portal account, identify what phone number is on file for the main contractor that is listed as the contractor. Find out what that phone number is. It's typically whatever is the main number of the business or whatever contractor licensing has on file for that contractor. And then now you can add that phone number to your account, okay? So I want to show you how you can add additional phone numbers to your account. If you go to your name at the top after you've logged in and go to Profile, you have this button called My Numbers. And you can see my account, I've just been adding numerous phone numbers to my account over the years, but you can add a phone number to your account. So let's just say you work for Coastal Builders, and Coastal Builders has a phone number of 772-222-2222, okay, as their main phone number, and that's the number that's on file for the contractor, that's the kind of the main contractor or the main business qualifier that gets listed, all the time in the contractor section. But you're a superintendent or an assistant or something like that, and you need to access all of those permits and add those to your account as well. Well, all you need to do is go in here, add a number, and put in that number of 772-222-2222, and then you would select phone type, and you would call that maybe like the business or work number, and then you would add that phone number to your account. When you click that, the system, just like it did when you created your account initially, it's going to trigger a phone call to that main number, and as long as you can answer that phone and press 1 saying that, yep, I just added that to my account and I wanted it to be verified, you can do that. Now, the big problem with that is a lot of times if it's a bigger business, a lot of times it goes to an IVR system. So you can't possibly answer that call, right? You just can't do it because, it's a computer that's answering the call and no one's there to, navigate through and things like that. So what you would do in that case is go ahead and call the MGO support line, and one of our agents will verify your identity that you are indeed associated with that company, because what they usually do is ask you to go ahead and send them an email. And as long as your email address has the same domain as Coastal Builders or something that's related in that way, then we'll go ahead and now verify that number for you under your account. And you only have to do that once. Once you do it that one time, you're golden, and now you can start adding any of those permits to your account as well. So I wanted to talk about that just so that you guys are familiar with, kind of like the security type of protocol we follow. I know previously, it was mentioned even this morning, hey, we're a subcontractor, you know, in the old system, you know, the moment that permit was created and then we got associated as a subcontractor, that permit would just automatically show up in our list. We want to get back to that. We want to get that working in that way so that it's kind of more automated like that, so that now you don't have to do this search and add the project to your account. Because even if you get listed as a sub, you don't have to add this company's phone number to your account or anything because you're now listed as a contact. But you still, once you get listed as a subcontractor, you still need to search for that permit and add it to your account. It doesn't just automatically happen the moment that it does get list you as a contact at that time. So just wanted to kind of talk about that and how that does function and how that works from that perspective as well. All right. So very good. That is basically what we wanted to cover today. We wanted to definitely make the class long enough. We still have about 20 minutes, but we don't need to take that 20 minutes if we don't need it. But we intentionally wanted to give ourselves time in case the class was massive or something like that and a lot of questions came up. But if there are no other questions, what I'll do is just turn this back over to Scott. And I definitely want to just thank all of you for being here today. There is a question here. Okay, sure.
So I was here the very first class that you guys did. And at that time, I believe you said if you had an MGO through Sebastian, then you didn't have to set up a new one. You just had to link your accounts or something. So now that this is MGO Connect, I have to start all over? Or?
Oh no, definitely not. No, you're okay. Yep.
Okay, well, I haven't connected my account yet, but I'm trying to figure that out. I don't do much permitting in Indian River County.
Sure.
So I'm behind on everything, really. So
No problem.
Yeah, that's all I needed to know.
No, that's a great question. The same email address and password you use with mygovernmentonline.org, when you go to mgoconnect.org, just log in. Just log in. Yeah, you don't need to create a new account or anything like that. It's all the same company. It's just that's an older portal.
Yeah.
Is
And you
all.
can toggle through the jurisdictions by that change jurisdiction, and then you can just go to both.
And Ken, can you just explain, it's preferred if you're doing work in both jurisdictions to actually transfer over to mgoconnect.org, because you have to use that for Indian River County, but not vice versa. MGOconnect.org works tremendous in Sebastian.
Roger that. That is absolutely true. Yeah. So, you know, the sooner you make that transition to just simply start using MGO Connect for Sebastian, Indian River County. I mean, we have others, Town of Orchid, I think Indian River Shores. You know, I don't know all of them, but a lot of these other jurisdictions are coming on board as well. Start using MGO Connect because, as Scott just stated, for Indian River County, it's an absolute must that you use MGO Connect because it's just far more advanced and it's accounting for a lot of additional details that the older portal doesn't. But for Sebastian, you know, their process is so simplified that now the new portal inherently is usable and actually is improved and better for Sebastian even in the new portal anyway. So definitely go ahead and make that transition, use that, because Sebastian is very near releasing more online applications available through their portal here on MGO Connect. So very soon, probably over the next month or so, I think you will start to see the city of Sebastian roll out new homes on their portal. You can apply online for electrical, mechanical, plumbing, aluminum, you know, doors and windows, shutters, things like that. All of that stuff will be there for Sebastian as well. And it's going to be incredibly similar because Wayne has really prototyped their applications off of Indian River County's applications. So a lot of the same questionnaire questions are going to be the same under the Sebastian applications. And he intentionally did that. So he kind of wanted to intentionally wait, let Indian River County go live, and then from there kind of borrow that because it makes it easier for everyone when they don't necessarily need to kind of relearn, you know, a lot of the same questions and things like that and reinvent the wheel on that. Outside of that, you know, finally, I just, you know, wanted to just say thank you for being here today, taking the time to visit with us and, you know, make this class meaningful. Great feedback, great questions, and we're just going to continue to enhance things and improve as we move along. So on behalf of My Government Online, South Central Planning, the agency I work with, and of course, the building department here, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you.
I was going to ask if Eric could maybe briefly go about the naming of the documents that you send in, like especially if they're from multiple documents under one name.
And that's also the frequently asked questions document that I talked about a little earlier. We're going to have that accessible from the portal as well, so you don't have to go to the Indian River County website. So we're going to add that so that you could actually see those naming conventions from the MGO Connect Portal. But I'll let Erica talk about how you can access that through the IRC website.
Can you repeat that question for
Yes, I
online
can.
people?
So the question was on the naming conventions, you know, where can customers find that information? We still have all of our documents and all of our resources on our main website, which is ircgov.com. So just to give you an idea, when you go to the homepage, if you select departments and then you select building division, and then select your permits, applications, checklist forms, resources, that's where you're going to find all of our documents at. The top one is that customer portal help guide that's going to guide you through just kind of your first time using the portal. But then your applications are all on the left-hand side of the page. Affidavits and resources are on the right-hand side of the page. And if you scroll down, there's an MGO section there. There's one labeled naming guide. If you go ahead and open that up, that's just our preferred naming that was come up with basically through our department and the other departments doing plan review, just so that everyone can kind of be on the same page, and especially when you're on your portal looking for documents, is easy for you to find and for us to find ourselves. So those are kind of the preferred naming guidelines we'd like you to use so that everyone sort of is on the same page. Also, you'll notice on your portal, even if you name it, say an NOC, what happens when we actually go to accept that document is MGO will actually rename it and your permit number will be in front of it. So it will have whatever your permit number and then it will say NOC. But these are the preferred kind of guidelines that we'd like you to use when you can.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for going through that, Erica. We appreciate it so much. So that document is going to be included into this frequently asked questions document, so it'll be on the portal directly, so you can reference that whenever you need to. And we're also going to embed, like in the section where when you're applying online and you get to the files upload section there, we're going to embed in those areas as well, so you can quickly reference, oh, okay, let me rename it like that, and then upload the document. So instead of having to go somewhere else to oh, how do they want that renamed and things like that, just to make it more convenient for you guys. Scott?
Any other questions?
If a homeowner's going to make an application and do some work himself, follows the exact same thing and applies as owner, property owner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He doesn't have to apply through the contractor, click on contractor. He can, if he's going to apply with property owner and do the work himself.
So currently, the property owner pulling an owner builder is going to obtain an account with MGO. He's going to obtain what we call, not really a fake, but he's going to have a contractor's license number that he's going to be able to use to operate through MGO. And then he's still going to sign off on the owner-builder affidavit and then upload everything just like a regular contractor. But in order to use the system, we have to give each individual owner-builder a contractor's license.
Okay. And just go into the office to do that.
There's a couple different ways of doing that, but coming into the office is one. You could email contract licensing, that information. So there is a couple different ways of doing it.
Excellent. Another great question, phenomenal, as it relates to owner builders that desire to act as their own contractor and apply online. First thing you need is, of course, an MGO account, but that doesn't give you a contractor license. That just, gives you an online account so you could then, have that available to you when you're ready and after you've obtained the license. But then you need to obtain an owner builder license is what they refer to it as. And again, as Scott stated, you could either email contractor licensing to complete that application, or you can come into the permit office and complete the process to obtain a comp card number as an owner builder. And then once you have that, now everything we talked about with the customer portal, you could apply online and submit your applications like
I
that.
also just asked Erica
yeah.
to explain an easier way of doing it, but she can explain a little bit better.
Okay, great.
If you do apply online and you've actually filled out all the fields, so we know your name, we know your email, we know your address, we can actually use that information and just create the account ourselves. It's just making sure that you've got all the contact information on that application so that we know what's going on. And for sure, when you apply online, if you have filled out the owner builder affidavit, that makes it a lot easier for us because then we know for sure, oh, this is an owner builder applying for it. One of the things we found in applying for online is just because you filled out the application, we don't always know what's going on because sometimes there's fields that are left blank, and without having that paper application, we're kind of trying to guess at what's going on. So that's why sometimes permits do get returned to you, only because we don't really know what is going on because we don't have that paper application. So as much as you can do to fill out all the questionnaire and all the form spaces on it, we can create that owner builder project, basically that contractor's sort of dummy license for you and get it going so that you really don't even have to come in to see us.
Awesome, very good. I'm so glad she made that clarification because that saved you a trip, or someone that would be doing that certainly saved you a trip there.
Anything else?
If you need to add documents, but it's already been submitted, is the only way to get it returned to you is just email you guys and ask you guys to return it to us so that we can then add documents and then submit it again?
And we're talking about it still in the application stage and hasn't been turned into a project.
Right.
I believe so. I don't think there's any way once it's that application sent to jurisdiction, yeah, you would have to probably email us. You could email us at the building support specialist at ircgov.com, or we have that IRC MGO questions at ircgov.com. And then we can at least go ahead, return it back to you. You can add your additional documents and then resend it back in.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, great, excellent.
All right, if we don't have anything else, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you being here, and thank you for helping us out, and we're working together on this. Thank you.